We now return to the 5th annual Fannie Award. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back. It's the 5th annual Fannie Awards. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thanks for stopping by. Wow, we're getting really close to the end, folks. It's day 7. So today we're going to be talking about my 4th favorite film of the year, who's taken home that 4th place trophy, and who's taken home the Fannie Award for Best Original Concept. Let's get right to it. In 4th place, folks at home, I want to take you on a journey across the pond, not the Atlantic, the bigger pond, a journey to a little place called South Korea, where we can visit the world of Parasite. When I heard that the director of Snowpiercer, which I really dig, was making another movie, this one about class distinction, I was really on board. I couldn't wait to see this, and when it finally was made available at a movie theater that I could get to, I rushed over, and what I ended up watching was nothing short of genius. Parasite ended up being 2 tons of fun, but for all the wrong reasons. And by wrong, I mean good but bad, like as in like, ooh, it's good to be bad. I'm not trashing the movie is what I'm saying. I'm saying this was good for all the right reasons, for all the wrong reasons, for all the right reasons. When you take the very universal idea of a down-on-their-luck family who just wants to make ends meet and put food on the table, and then you cross that with a sort of bizarre Ocean's 11 con scheme that ends up going to a very dark place and isn't really played for as much tongue-in-cheek laughter as an Ocean's 11 is, then all of a sudden, you've got a recipe for something that really messes with your head. As soon as the plot of Parasite started to kick along, sitting in my chair in the audience, immediately my first thought was, ooh, when I meet this rich family, I am going to hate them because they're a rich family. Turns out, they're some of the nicest people in the movie. They're not perfect, but I'd rather hang out with them than with the alternatives. The Kim family, who are our main characters who we follow, they start off as your heroes. You're rooting for them. You got to know them. You want them to succeed. You want them to get some money and maybe get out of that dingy little basement that they're living in. But then as they start putting their plan into motion, you see exactly how far they're willing to go to get what they want. You think, wait a minute. I feel like a line should have been drawn somewhere. And it wasn't. And now all of a sudden, you're still rooting for them, but you feel bad for rooting for them. And as the Kims keep doing worse and worse things, you are trying to justify it in your head, and it becomes more and more difficult until a second act twist comes along where all of a sudden, all bets are off, and you are no longer rooting for the Kim family. Until, in a way, you kind of are again. That's the beauty of Parasite. I sound like an idiot right now. I'm flip-flopping like a politician. But Parasite is going to challenge every preconceived notion you had about low-income and upper-class people. And it's going to twist them and turn them until whatever side you may have been on before the movie started, you might either not be on that side anymore, or be on that side but be ashamed of being on that side, or, like I was by the time the credits rolled, be on nobody's side at all and just think, my God, humans suck sometimes. We got to figure this shit out. And it's rare for a movie with such heady subject matter to be so damn entertaining. But it was. Parasite never stops being entertaining. For the most part, it's actually really funny. It's a very dark comedy, and people in the audience were laughing hysterically throughout the first 3/4 of it. But then once the dark stuff starts happening and you really start to get under the skin of what these characters are capable of, then everybody feels bad for laughing. And you could feel that. You could feel a wave of slight guilt washing over the entire crowd in that movie theater. It takes a special kind of movie to do that. And Parasite is a special kind of movie. Yes, it is still fresh in my mind. Yes, it is the last 2019 movie I watched. I only just watched it a few weeks ago. But that bias aside, that bias of freshness aside, even if Parasite had come out last January, I don't think there's a world in which it wouldn't have made this top 10 list. Congrats to you, Parasite. And now it's time to give out an award that's near and dear to my heart. Folks, you know what I value more than anything, almost anything? Creativity. We live in a wonderful world where we can see 3 Marvel movies a year, a Star Wars movie every year, a DC movie whenever Warner Brothers, feels like it. And I love all of them. But to me, There's nothing more special than walking into a movie theater to see a brand new intellectual property and having no idea what I'm going to be in for, and also having no idea whether that intellectual property is going to blossom into a brand new franchise that the whole world can enjoy. That's the world I want to live in, where we can watch the genesis of something great before it gets too cool to hang out with us little people. Every year, I make it a mission of mine to see as many original movies as I can. That means movies that obviously aren't sequels or remakes or part of an already established intellectual property, and movies that are not based on true stories or adapted from books, etc. I'm talking plain and simple, from the writer's mind to the movie screen, original concepts. This year, there weren't quite as many as I would have liked. There were only 12 in total, but 12 is better than 11, and 11 is better than none. So here's a quick rundown of all the original films I saw this year, and if you value new, fresh ideas as much as I do, then please try to make it a point to watch at least a couple of them. You will not be disappointed. Here are all the original films I saw in 2019. Now, which one of them told the most interesting original story? Who had the best original concept of the year? The nominees are Brightburn, Captive State, Parasite, Ready or Not, Yesterday. And the best original concept, Fannie, goes to Yesterday. Sometimes the muses just smile down on people. I believe that in the 50s and 60s, the muses were smiling down on the Beatles when they wrote all of their hit songs. And I believe that a couple of years ago, the muses were smiling down on whoever wrote Yesterday for coming up with that brilliant idea, simple but effective, of having a young musician who's down on his luck, waking up in a world where nobody remembers the Beatles except for him. It was this concept that sold the movie for me. It was this idea through a movie trailer that said, Andrew, you're going to want to watch this. And I was like, yes, please. Here's my money. Studios like to gab on about how new stuff doesn't really pull in the big bucks and you got to have the big tentpole franchises in order to draw a crowd. And in a way, they're right. But this is a prime example of how a new idea drew me in. And if we make it a point to watch more original movies, we will see more starting to pop up. It's a two-way street. If we want them to make more, we gotta watch more. Now, typically, I tend to give this award out to films that I believe can kickstart brand new franchises. But this year, it didn't really turn out that way. In terms of the nominees, if any of them were good for kickstarting new franchises, it would probably be Captive State, maybe Ready or Not. Yesterday's not really a franchise kind of movie. It's just kind of, it exists and there it is and it's over. But I believe the concept was so strong and I believe it was so deserving of this award because of just the simplicity of an idea that at some point in time, I think everybody in the world has thought of, whether they realize it or not. Everybody in the world who is a fan of something can relate to the feeling of thinking, damn, if I could go back in time and invent this first, I totally would. How many people have said that they would use time travel to go invent Apple before Apple invented Apple? That's kind of a universal fantasy that we all have, isn't it? It's just part of being a human. We all sigh and gaze up at the stars and wish, man, if I could go back and, give J.K. Rowling the idea for Harry Potter and be like, hey, cut me in 50-50, I'd be doing okay for myself. This is that fantasy brought to life. And it's done so in an incredibly sweet, heartfelt way. It's not just a joke and the whole movie is a punchline of a single joke. It never gets tiresome. You are with Jack on this journey from start to finish, and his reactions to what is happening are all very human, reactions. Another beautiful little treat that this movie had to offer is that, I'm not going to spoil these, but there are other things besides the Beatles that people don't remember in this new world Jack wakes up in. And the fun comes from finding out alongside Jack that, oh my goodness, this doesn't exist either. There are so many little nuggets like this sprinkled throughout the film, so it never becomes stagnant. And I think that's the key to yesterday's success. Yes, the trailer sold this wonderful concept to me, but by the time the final credits rolled, I wasn't sick of that concept. I could still spend more time living in this universe and finding out what else doesn't exist and finding out how the world, copes without Beatles being a thing. So yeah, in a way, it kind of does have franchise potential, even though I would never really want a sequel to this, and it's fine on its own. It just has that power where its concept was so great that it left me wanting more. It left me wanting to play in this sandbox more, albeit just on a different level than the other usual nominees and winners of this award. Yesterday truly is an example of how the muses can really play favorites when they want to, and nobody benefits from it more than the audience. So congratulations, Yesterday, for being the best original concept of 2019. And that's it for today. I will see you all here tomorrow for day 8 of the Fannies. We're getting very close. Starting tomorrow, we're in the top 3. What were my top 3 favorite movies of the year? You're going to find out what one of them is tomorrow. Plus, we're going to give out the award for the most underrated film. That one's always fun. So stick around, Fannie fans. We'll be right back. Same place, roughly the same time tomorrow. See you then.